Hey, how's it going, my friends? This is Nick from the Nerd Frenzy Podcast. Today, we have a 3-pack, drama style. Good Will Hunting, The Green Mile, and Pay It Forward. And we get to share it with Keaton.
Hello. Good to be back.
Yes.
It's been a couple months, too long.
It has, and I do this thing. I was doing 4 a month, and it was awesome. But there was just so much editing, and didn't have enough time to do it because I do it all by myself. And luckily, sometimes David, whenever I get to do one with David, he actually helps with the editing too. God bless him. But for everyone else, it's 100% me, and sometimes I just don't have the time with how busy my life is. So I decided to do 2 a month. But the bummer about that is now I have to oh, hey, I'll see it 2 months. I'll do one in 2 months with you instead of I'll do one in 3 weeks or something like that. So it makes it kind of a bummer. But I did one the other day with Josh, our cousin Josh, where we did a 3-pack, and then that's what we wanted to do today. So I just wanted to keep that going and have some fun and kind of have quick little 15-minute chats about each one. And Keith, I love you, and I'm glad you got to come on again as always. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Thank you for having me.
Nick, I need this.
Oh God.
Oh, so let's go ahead and get started. The first one we get to talk about today, Keaty, is Good Will Hunting.
Oh man, and that's the one I watched about half of it just now and didn't get to some of my favorite parts, but that movie is so well done. I actually just recently heard, and I can't remember if it was an interview with Ben Affleck or Matt Damon but the way that the movie was made was they were trying to make a short to prove to some writers or producers or somebody that they knew how to act, and then it ended up being this movie.
Yes, and not only that, but the people that they showed it to did not even like it. No one did, but the two of them were still inspired, and they kept on writing, and they did it. The cool thing about the time too is it was in the '90s where the whole do-it-yourself director was the cool thing to do. You had stuff like Clerks from Kevin Smith. You had the Tarantino doing Reservoir Dogs. '90s was the time when all these people were like, hey, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do that. And these guys, same thing for them, but they realized that the only way it would really work is if they had someone big, and that's why they brought Mr. Robin Williams. My favorite, I think, in terms of the best quality of an actor you could possibly be, Robin Williams. I would also like to show, this is my wonderful nephew, Mr. Theo, everyone.
Just joined the world recently, rather recently.
might as well talk about Robin Williams and then automatically bring up Theo, because there's 2 very important people in our lives, Keaton.
And I couldn't agree more.
The question is who's more important? I'm just kidding. Theo's gonna watch this one day and be like, Mom?
Unacceptable.
But no, it's something that you hear. Pretty much, Matt Damon had the idea. He went to Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck said, absolutely, I'll support you in this thing. And then they did that scene. No one liked it. But they said, you know what, I think there's something more. And then they started writing into it. They started getting it more into the philosophy of things and how it would actually make sense and be realistic. Because when you're dealing with a genius and stuff like that, you can't just be someone like me who's trying to explain what a genius is, because it doesn't make sense. It's
you need everything to actually add together, because there's people out there that are going to watch the movie that are going to be able to pick it apart and say, "No, that's not true. That doesn't
Right.
make sense."
The average person is gonna be like, I'm not necessarily that the smartest person in the world, but this feels like me, kind of, you know.
Yeah, so
But good. So Goodwill Hunting, it's a cool story too because you have this kid who's a genius, and he's been damaged by his childhood to the point where he just he doesn't trust anyone, and then he has these amazing friends that kind of are just there to have his back, and his main friend, Ben, the whole time just trying to encourage him to get out of the area, and it's just there's a lot of good people around him, but he just no matter what will keep on push himself away. And a perfect example is whenever he meets his girlfriend, Minnie Driver, and the moment she gets serious is when he starts saying pushing her back.
yeah. Oh yeah.
The whole thing was just the whole movie is such a sad thing, but it's such a wonderful movie to watch, Keaton. And that's the one
Yeah.
that you in fact you brought this one up to me first. So it's something that this is the one that you want to talk about. What would you say is the biggest charm about this movie, Keaton?
I love Matt Damon's character, obviously. There's something very charming about him, and there's something very, broken that you want to fix. You want to see him, and you don't really know that at the beginning of the movie. You just think, here's this super genius kid that's kind of
Kind of a
like,
prick,
obviously, yeah. And then,
a good guy, but kind of a prick too. Yeah.
yeah, then you kind of see um, him being introduced to all of these counselors, and all of them acting like all professional, and like it was funny to watch and see what a like he was a prick to all these guys too. And um he didn't let them get under his skin, but then Robin Williams, to see him, that scene where they're sitting at the bench, and he's basically calling Matt Damon an asshole. I mean, he's like, you don't know anything, you're just a kid. Like, I let all those things bother me, and then I realized, who are you? Like, you have all of these book smarts, but you know nothing about the real world. I mean, regarding these things and their relationship. And then it kind of ties back into Robin Williams. When we first meet him, he's talking to his classroom about trust, and that's like a huge theme in this movie, is Robin Williams gaining Matt Damon's character's trust, basically. So that theme of, because I think one of the themes in the movie is trust. I mean, it's like getting to the point where you can be vulnerable, and like accepting it, allowing yourself to be exactly who you are with someone, and not, because he has this front with everybody. So I don't know. That was a long-winded answer, but that's what I have to say about it. So yeah, I really love the movie. It's so good.
And there's a psychology behind the movie too. So when you're watching it, even though you and I don't necessarily know how therapy and what works, we get to see it through the eyes of all these characters, and we go on the same kind of emotional journey technically as uh, Goodwill as Will Hunting is going on, and his name is Goodwill. Hi, I'm Goodwill. Um, um, but no, Will goes on this journey, and we go on it with him. So whenever we're seeing all these arcs, when we first see the first conversation with Robin Williams in the park, and Matt Damon kind of gets that first glimpse, really, of like, oh, this man has something I think to offer, and because he kind of like
Oh yeah.
shuts him up in a very like you don't know anything about Michelangelo or the Sistine Chapel unless you've been there and you can smell it and you look at it, and you don't know anything about love unless you've seen Shakespeare, or you don't know anything about love unless you with a woman that you completely vulnerable, like you said a minute ago, the word vulnerable. And there's so many of these things, and he's pretty much it's a beautiful thing of him, and not just him, but also his a couple of his friends too, his girlfriend, all these people, and then the first Stellan Skarsgård, the first professor who found him in the first place. All these people truly just see not only see a genius, but they see this wonderful person, and they're trying to open it up. And the moment he detects some kind of like threat to him, all of a sudden this alarm goes off, and he completely just pushes them away. And whenever he did that to her, it was heartbreaking because he very much loved her and she very much loved him. And it was like, okay, cool. If you don't do this, man, you're an idiot, and I'm gonna hate you.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily, through the power of the therapy that he got, he was able to truly let go of the demons he had. And
Yeah.
and there's something very empowering about someone, and the way that Rob Williams did it too. And like I said, Robin Williams. I mean, it's a beautiful man. He that part whenever he was doing that, where it's not your fault, and he kept on saying it, and almost like he was persistent, like he was pushing it almost, because at that point he was not letting him go anywhere. He was saying,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not letting you move. I'm literally blocking you. But the way he was doing it was very loving. It's not your fault. You were broken
Yeah.
by your family, and you are a good boy, and you need to know that it's not your fault. And then when Will starts, he finally gets it, and then something happens, and then he just starts hugging him. He starts crying because he realized what just happened. Uh, End of movie, perfect,
Uh,
awesome. The whole
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that I mean, he forces him to wrap his head around actually having the thought himself that it's not his fault. Like he forced him into that
Hmm.
thought process where, oh my gosh. Yeah, that part is super intense where me personally watching it every single time, I can't help but cry.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's something it's like one of those. It's a lot of it's crying like because you feel bad, then a lot of it's crying because you're finally like, oh, I'm being uplifted. He is healing, and now I am healing. And it's a beautiful thing,
oh
and
yeah.
and it's very rare for movies to do that, and this is one of those that does it very well. And the whole time you're just sitting there, you have all this reinforcement, this positive reinforcement with like his friends and his woman, and then the professors. He has all these people that are trying to guide him, but he just so messed up. But then finally he gets it, and then voila, the rest. He. And then the cool thing too, which is funny because Rob Williams, a lot of it stuff that he said was Rob Williams. It wasn't. It was what was not on the script. It was
Oh
what.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Rob Williams says he did with every single movie he ever was in. So, and it was always why Rob Williams
I
was.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. Rob Williams.
Oh, and we love him even more
Hmm.
for that.
I mean, of course,
Yeah.
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they actually wrote this, and that's something that we a lot of people forget is these are the kind of guys that said, hey, we're being told by every single person, you guys are idiots. There's nothing here. Blah 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 blah. There's not. You guys aren't famous. You're just guys, pretty much. You're trying to figure out your acting career, and you're kind of done a couple things, but
Yeah.
nothing special. And then all of a sudden, here comes a special thing that kind of gives the opportunity. Because Ben Affleck before, and he'll tell you in an interview himself, he said that before this, he was getting only parts of. He was just playing the bully. He was pushing around little kids, and it was just like I was tired of doing that, obviously. And then when Matt came with this
Yeah.
idea, it was a really good idea, and then I helped him write it, and then I wanted to make sure that like Matt said that Ben was writing other characters to allow for those characters to be positive reinforcement, and that's what allowed the movie to have a better flair to it. And he's absolutely right. There's so many wonderful characters in the movie, and it's just a wonderful movie. And Gus Van Sant, the guy who directed it, a lot of people don't know a lot of his works, but he also did the Milk, the one with the yeah,
Oh,
Harvey Milk,
yeah.
the first openly gay, was it governor, I believe, or mayor of San Francisco.
Um, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was the main. Oh, I just recently, I mean, the last like 6 months or so, watched that for the first time,
Oh,
and that's a super empowering movie.
well, Sean
And that's
Sean Penn. I mean,
yeah, I know he's so good.
well, he is good,
Um,
and of course the story itself was empowering, and then that's probably what you were trying to get at.
yeah. Very good movie. They just portrayed it very well because I ended up looking up the factual events, and it's very well portrayed.
Mm,
The movie is.
yeah.
I would like to say I really like Minnie Driver's character. Is she the voice of Jane from Tarzan? Just
Oh,
throwing that
of
out there.
course, of course.
Okay, I never noticed that until this time. I was like, her voice sounds very familiar.
Well, her and
Um,
her like laughing that she does. Oh, she does that weird like
she does.
like a man who just coughed like, but also laughed at the same time. Like a smoker's had a smoker's cough his all his life, and for some odd reason, when she does it, it's extremely charming and sweet. Even though it sounds like a old man who has some kind of throat disease or something.
And I my favorite part where it really shows her character is when we first meet her when she's leaving the bar and she's calling Will an idiot, and she's like, "You're an idiot. I've been sitting over there for 45 minutes waiting for you to come over." I love how forward she is.
Hmm.
The whole movie, she's very honest about what she wants, what she's thinking,
Hmm.
and I love that about her. She's not a typical female character, so that's something too. I
Hmm.
thought was very thoughtful. They put thoughtfulness into the friendships that they had. You know, the guys that were always together. They put, I mean, and the professor, like everybody, they put a lot of thought into these characters. So it's something I really appreciated watching it over again. Because even Minnie Driver, um, yeah, that part when she's calling him an idiot, it's like yes, and then she gives him her number. It's like another thing that's not typical. So I just was like, sweet, yep.
Hmm. And you're absolutely right about the. There's nothing more. I guess just more disgusting whenever you just see constantly just all these movies that you watch that just have women in the background just looking pretty and there's nothing really there for them to do, and it's just like, well, why are you here? You're just there for so we can look at you because you're pretty. Because if that's the case, then that's stupid. And it is nice. Like
Yeah,
I like that's why I constantly bring up a lot of people like Sigourney Weaver and Carrie Fisher because these are women that actually were certain kind of empowering people in real life and in the movies. So it's pretty cool.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. She is, and the way she just kind of calls him out, and then when she's like, "Oh, I'm going there," and then he's like, "Well, okay," and then she's like, "Well, we come with me." He's like, "No, no." And then he starts getting really defensive and like very like he's already doing that thing where he's already like, oh, you're a piece of crap, I don't even like you. And then when she's just like, oh, come on, I know you want to come, and she knows him. She, like I said, he's been vulnerable around her, so she knows what he's doing. And then she kind of like says, it's, come with me. It's, we love each other, we're good. And then that's when he says like, I don't love you. And then he just kind of gives her that like look, like almost like
Uh,
screw you, don't even look at me. And you can just see he's just like about ready to crack, but he doesn't. He's just like, yeah.
uh, yeah, and that breaks my heart. Those climaxes, or the problems in that movie where it hurts. I don't. It's hard to get through those parts where you're like, okay, let's get to the end where he's got to see about a girl.
Yeah. And then that part was, of course, put in there by Robin Williams.
Aw, I like that was one of my favorite things because he,
When he says he took my line, that was not supposed to be in there. He's supposed to say something like "Good for you, Matt," or "Good for you, Will," and then no, he says like that little shit or whatever he says took my line or yeah.
oh yeah, uh, yeah, I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, Good Will
And he,
Hunting. What an excellent movie though.
oh yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
Keaton, the next one we're talking about is The Green Mile, sister.
Ooh,
Yes.
yeah, and another sad, powerful. Um, I mean, it just another kind of heart wrenching, heavy movie.
Oh
One of
yeah.
those movies. I mean, Green Mile's one of those movies for me. I can only watch like once a decade because it's so heavy.
It's heavy.
It's like
It's heavy.
it's so. I mean, it's a long movie. It's slowly told, but it's also it has characters like Percy in it who you literally want to
Oh.
murder. Like I wish he didn't exist. But
Doug
um,
Hutchinson, who played him, the actor who played him, he
uh,
just killed it. He just killed it.
he
There's,
did.
oh man, and he was just so like he was so unlikable, and he was so unlikable that you're thinking like I don't care who you are, the actor, I don't like you in real life.
In real life. Yeah, I know. It was almost as bad as dang it, what's her name in Harry Potter? Do you know? You know,
Umbridge,
I'm talking about
Umbridge.
Umbridge. Yeah, just cut all that out.
We'll be happy to.
Umbridge. Um, yeah, the and the games that Percy played with Tom Hanks and just, I mean, everyone there on E Block, uh, stepping on the mouse, wanting to like, oh, I'll put in my, I'll move if you just let me do this once. How,
Oh
just
yeah.
the way he spoke too. I I was like talking to the TV, like, why do you have to talk like that? I dislike you even more.
Oh yeah, and he's always
But
like doing this thing with his hair. He's always going back. He's like,
oh my
he's
god,
always like, just like looks like he's about ready to like, hey, yeah. He's always sweating
yeah,
profusely. But
and
there's so many of
yeah, his
those
stance,
people in this too. Every single
yeah,
actor in this movie is bringing their A game. Of course, Tom Hanks. I don't have to say anything about him,
no,
obviously. But everyone, like all the prison guards, and then all the prisoners on that cell block. Every single person in that movie was amazing. And of course, I think probably the best of the movie, funny enough, which you'd never know, but Michael Clark Duncan.
what is the story? Because I actually watched some of that movie with Kyler, and she asked me, what is John Coffey's story? Was he sent? If we actually truthfully told his story, was he sent by God to like come to Earth and heal specific people, or
It's vague the
you
way
know what I mean?
the way Stephen King puts it in his books because they did 6 books, and I guess the reason why he wanted to do 6 books is because he did not like when people would take the end of the book and just find what the ending was. So he did 6 books, small
Uh,
installments of the Green Mile, and then he would release them after. And so he did for that, and and he was kind of vague with that, just like they were in the movie. But it was I always figured that he was an angel. He was an angel
okay.
that just he was there. And what one thing that I never understood, Keaton, is why they allowed for him to die at the end.
Yeah. I it was almost like he was almost like Jesus, where he was dying for the sins of others or something. Because that's something I thought of, because I thought there's no reason for him to die. Tom Hanks, all of these people knew, he proved that he didn't do these things, and that he was obviously a huge asset to the world, a huge blessing to the world. Cured small things all the way up to taking a lemon-sized tumor out of, um, you know, the woman's brain, and someone that was inevitably going to die. Like, all of the things that he was able to do, it stings that even when Tom Hanks kind of gives him an out, like, hey, I can find a way to, like, you're in, I know that you're innocent, so I won't go through with this if you don't want me to, basically. And he still does. So I wonder, especially in those days where things aren't like as well documented. I just thought they could have easily gotten away with letting him go free.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
absolutely.
I wonder too. Such a neat movie, and because these are prisoners on death row, where I don't know the actor's name or the character's name, unfortunately, but the guy with the mouse, um, he's obviously somebody on death row, so we're not supposed to like him. But because of his relationship with Percy, and because Tom Hanks is super gentle with the amount of kind of courtesy that he gives all of these people on death row, because he knows
Well, he knows
these.
I mean, this is your last
Yeah.
moments. Why would you want to be a jerk to someone who's already freaking out anyways? Probably.
Oh yeah. But even his character, the gentleman with the mouse, he he's a very like dirty, kind of grungy guy, but you like him. I
Mhm.
mean, and you're like cheering for him. You're almost hoping that whatever his story is ends up like a happy ending because it's
Mm.
like, well, so the way they kind of playfully tell these stories where obviously these men have very dark, like he obviously did something that ended him on death row or put him on death row. But yeah, it's a very, very well done story. And I do like that they follow Tom Hanks home and you get to see like who he is as a husband and um, like contemplating what he's supposed to do about John Coffey. Just yeah, it's a very, very well done movie.
Yes, it is, and there's so many parts that, like you said, you mentioned a couple parts that when he's saving a few of the people, but the actual when you actually get to watch it and you see whenever he brings John to the warden's house and the warden himself is watching this, and then you see the miracle, the whole thing lights up and everything gets all pretty much implying this angelic thing is happening, and still the warden is still standing there in the background, just kind of feeling like a jerk for what he's doing too. Everyone's feeling like a jerk. Everyone's knowing exactly what they're doing. It's like you said, that's the whole story almost of like Jesus, but this time around we know that he's a savior and we're still doing it.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And but that's I guess the power. And Stephen King, even though a lot of times he's a brilliant writer, even though he's kind of known to have a very he's not very good at his endings a lot of time. It's kind of a if you're a Stephen King fan, you would even say his endings are not necessarily the best endings, but his writing's very powerful and his characters are even more powerful than that. And there's something that he does with this movie that allows for you to, like you said, you care for that one French guy, not necessarily because he even says he did like he raped and he killed someone and he did arson, but you see whenever they're talking to him, he's he he genuinely feels bad for it and he knows for sure he is going to die and he deserves to die, so there's no reason to be mean to him. And
Yeah.
that's the whole beautiful thing about these all these characters. And then it keeps you in this green mile, this keeps you in this little area this whole for a good majority of the time because it wants you to build this tension and whatnot too. And then just the Frank Darabont charm, which is the same director who did Shawshank Redemption and started the Walking Dead franchise before it turned to crap, in my opinion, and then before he left. Because he like I said, he left because they wanted the quality to not be as good, but they wanted to just start doing certain propaganda and stuff like that with it. So he left the show, and it kind of made him mad about
Yeah.
Hollywood. But yeah, this Green Mile, I've told people there's certain movies that I will always like. Shawshank Redemption probably is, in my opinion, even though it's not my favorite, I would say it is pound for pound the best movie of all time. Green Mile, same director and same writer, Stephen King, and it's I would say in terms of quality, it is I mean literally like on the line with Shawshank Redemption in so many regards.
Yeah. I mean, because it's jam packed with really good actors. There's actually the dad of the two little girls that died is in
William
Shawshank.
Sadler, yeah. They Frank Darabont uses all the same actors that, and
Yeah.
you and I did Shawshank Redemption when we talked about that, and it's very the movie has a very similar feel to Green Mile, and that's because the same director and same writer and same actors for a lot of them. In fact, he wanted Tom Hanks for the role of Andy Dufresne in Shawshank, but he could not do it because he was filming
Oh.
a really awful movie called Forrest Gump, so it didn't.
I was like, what was going on during that time? This is 94. Okay.
Oh
Or
yeah,
yeah.
94 is like it's like
What could
that.
it
Those
be?
two, and then like ooh, look at this. Woo. It was like
We're
94.
ready to party.
I know seriously, it was like 94, and also Pulp Fiction was in 94.
Really?
Jeez, yeah.
That was a heavy
Disgustingly,
year.
with the best movies of all time all in the same year. There's a lot of high fiving going on, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, Pulp Fiction. Yeah, it. I would definitely agree. Green Mile is. There's nothing you can pick apart and say that it doesn't add up or it doesn't. You know, we have questions obviously that I
Sure,
think were
sure.
purposefully
Hmm.
um, done. Like it was purposely written in a way to where we had something to question and talk about. Why? Um, Two, John Coffey had the physical capability to escape several times throughout that thing, but he did, um,
Like you said
he
a
just,
minute ago, like the Jesus thing, maybe he knew he was kind of destined to do that because it was what he was told to do by God. Who knows? But
yeah,
uh, I mean, but regardless, I think that the way of keeping it vague was the kind of the whole mystery of just the whole we don't know all the answers with the Bible and anything either, but we just kind of have to go off of faith and whatnot. And I think that's maybe putting in this too. And but one thing I thought was odd though was it was like almost like it was supposed to happen, but yet it wasn't because they were all punished afterwards and lived long lives of regrets and whatnot. And even the mouse had lived a long life. And that's what I'm saying about the Stephen King, like not necessarily having the best endings for his stuff. It felt like that was kind of like I never thought that they I don't know I didn't get it I guess.
yeah, and I don't remember because it's Tom Hanks is telling the story. It's him as a super old man. I was unsettled that he said the best year of his life was 1935. I think that's the year. And I was like, it's sad that I was like, you lived, I don't know, several decades after this. Why was that the best year? I mean, obviously having someone miraculous a miraculous human being in your life would probably take the cake. But um yeah, I guess you're right. The ending kind of was like a dud as far as the whole story was told. The ending was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things like, and this is my personal opinion, but when you watch The Notebook, there were parts of it every time the older couple would talk, I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, and it, but
Mhm.
and I get it. Notebook was a good movie, it really was, but there were certain times when I was just like, okay, this whole back and forth thing was kind of odd, but luckily, Green Mile just kind of they started it and then they ended it, and then it kind of was allowed it, but it did, in my opinion, and I guess they did a lot of screen tests. They actually put old makeup on Tom Hanks, but it just didn't look realistic. So then they had to hire another actor. But I would have been
Um,
curious in how it would have, and it probably wouldn't have changed necessarily like the lines or whatnot. But I wonder if it would have changed the feel of the ending. But yeah, I always felt like the ending was kind of, if you would have cut the last 5-10 minutes off, it would have kind of just been, I think, a little bit more mysterious or something, because it seemed like that's what they were going for a little bit, anyways, or just like like Christly or like interesting. I don't
yeah, yeah, and to go back to the Notebook real quick, that's that I wish that they would have ended that movie to at least some sort of flashback of when they were young. I hated that they ended that movie of them dying in bed as old, ugly people together.
Jeez.
I'm like, here's like a beautiful couple, and the last moments is them in bed. These, yeah. So that's
Wow.
my raw opinion on the ending of Notebook.
Jeez. And you heard it straight here on Nerd Frenzy Podcast, everyone.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Oh man. So everyone, Keaton hates the Notebook, and
No.
no.
Just throw that out there.
But so yeah.
Um,
Anyways, to close on Green Mile, it really is one of the finest movies ever made, and I mean the whole thing. My only gripe with the movie is, like I said, the ending a little bit, and then 3 hours and 8 minutes or however long it was. It should have been 12 hours and 8 minutes. But other than that, whatever.
Agreed.
Yes, ditto.
You know.
All right, on the next one, our last one is "Pay It Forward," Keaton, and this one
Ooh.
was your second choice that you wanted to throw in there, and it's something that it's something. When I remember watching it the first time, it actually was the reason why, and I wanted to tell you this before we started actually talking about the movie itself. But when I watched this movie, after I remember I was so attracted to the setting of Nevada
Oh
landscape
yeah.
that I actually told myself I wanted to go to a college that had a, a desert landscape like that, and there's kind of a lot of things that affected what happened to school I went and when I moved to Phoenix and whatnot.
Wow. That's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because there was a last minute change in when we were because I was supposed to go to Denver, and then there was like a you could pick which one you go to, and I saw it, and they were crappy one, and then I saw Phoenix. I'm like, yep, that's it right there, Phoenix.
Wow.
And it's because I saw Pay It Forward, and I remember just a lot of the scenes. He's just kind of hanging out outside. You see the background. I remember thinking, yeah, that's I like that.
Yeah. There were a lot of good shots of it being outside, and you forget that it's in Vegas. I mean, it's weird that most movies you're not really aware of like which city that they're in, but that's kind of in the background, like known that that's where they're at.
Hmm. And there's been times whenever I watch a movie that's kind of built around like atmospheric in terms of like they're trying to show a lot of landscape, and then it kind of forces you to be curious. Like when you watch something like Jeremiah Johnson, you're like, okay, well, this is a mountain man. Where are they filming all these things in the mountains?
Oh
And so
yeah.
you're like curious. So you're like, okay, cool. Okay, Canada. Okay, cool. Cool. Oh, Colorado. Cool. Oh, it's cool when you can kind of do that kind of stuff. Certain things, but we if if it's something like something I guess a generic movie you don't necessarily care about where it's at, uh,
Oh yeah.
but Pay It Forward, there's something about the atmosphere that I remember liking a lot. But the movie itself is well, like I said, I we picked three movies that were kind of in a lot of ways depressing movies, Keaton. So
I know.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I feel like did you we came up with Goodwill Hunting,
you
which
told me
was
you've been
a
wanting to go hunting for a
strong,
while. Yep,
yeah, strong, which was a strong choice, I must say. And then you told
humble.
me, I believe you told me Green Mile. So then I thought I need to find something that kind of has the same tone, or
Hmm.
at least, and so naturally, Pay It Forward, which everyone, the three main actors in that movie, are excellent. Like Helen Hunt is, I mean, she plays the perfect white trash mom. I mean, she plays that role so perfectly, and Haley, who I don't know if this was before or after Sixth Sense, but I mean, does such a good job playing that the kid of a alcoholic mother, and of course Kevin Spacey. I mean, he plays like he plays a really good really good teacher that cares about his kids. I mean, and he has this depressing everything else in his life he doesn't
Yeah.
do well. He has everything it has to have everything exactly so or it falls apart and he's falling apart mentally, but you can tell he's a great teacher. Like all of the interactions that we see in the classroom, he is this attentive like teacher. Anyways,
There's something about this movie that's really cool because it allows for an idea. And this is something that I like to talk about with like Fight Club. Fight Club is a prime example. I've talked about that before with Lucas. There's something about this movie too, and it actually allows for you to really be conscious of the idea to actually pay it forward and to actually think of like it's like the whole idea of a Christmas, be giving, be wonderful to people. But this is like one of those things that doesn't have to be a specific time of the year. It's just to be, now. Do it right now. And it was a good idea. And I remember when this movie came out, you started hearing all these stories about people trying to achieve this, and it was a reminder to humanity who saw this movie. It's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, yeah, because there was a prime example in this, and I'm not saying to go trust a homeless person because that's not maybe not a good idea, but there was a opportunity here to show whenever he did take in the homeless guy, and yes, the homeless guy was Jim Caviezel, aka Jesus Christ, in Passion for the
Jesus Christ.
Christ. So that I would take him in too. But regardless, he took in a homeless person, and even though it was maybe not a very good idea, he did it on the idea of the faith that human action. I help you out, and maybe teach you something like teach you that people can love one another, and then maybe you can do it to the next person. It was a really good idea that was able to actually spickle here and there into the real world for a while, and it was really, and it still happens to this day to some degree. People do like to pay it forward, where it's like, hey, you know what, this person helped me out, and I want to kind of just help you out because that felt pretty good when they did that to me. So it was a good idea, and the movie, even though it has a lot of dark things, especially with Kevin Spacey, how he was burned and whatnot, and how he had a really sad,
Yeah.
depressing situation, and how it kind of, that's the reason why he was kind of closed to everyone, and he was weird around certain situations. His demeanor was kind of dark in certain times, but he was a guy, like you said, that he was a very good teacher, and you could tell he was a good person too. But all these people were also not just by the pay it forward idea, but just by him, how the boy, how he started this whole thing, and how it started with situations like, oh, my grandma is now hanging out with us, and the drinking's not is not destroying her anymore, and then they're getting help and AA, and the homeless guy talked a lady off a bridge, and they went to go get a cup of coffee, and a guy gave another guy a car because the guy needed one, uh,
Yeah.
and all these things were happening, even though throughout the movie they're like, "This is crazy, I'm doing this, but here, pay it forward." And you're like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? It makes it. Hey, that there it is. That's a start. And the idea behind it is what makes this movie even better than a lot of other movies. Just because the message is very inspiring, and it is a reminder to humanity: you can be good. You don't have to be bad.
Oh yeah. And I love that he doesn't Trevor doesn't succeed the first several times. The homeless person has a relapse.
Hmm.
His mom goes back to drinking. I mean, because he tries to help out the homeless person.
Yep.
Kevin Spacey initially, like, him and his mom doesn't work
Right.
out, and then
Right.
he's unable to help his friend from getting beat up. So these things, he it's I like how they're telling the back other side of the story without him being
Yes.
aware of it.
There's
And then
waves. There's
actually,
waves that are being affected because of what he did that he has no
yeah,
idea he did now. And this is it's going like it's going, ooh, and it just spreads throughout
yeah,
the world. And that little wave of positiveness actually is causing other people to be positive, which is causing like this little like flicker and this little light in the world. And it is, like I said, there's real things like that. And it's a beautiful thing, and he doesn't know what he did. He even said at the end of the movie, whenever they filmed him and they were watching it, and he says, "Oh, I didn't do anything. I tried, and it didn't work, but it's cool. I
at
got
least
to
I
I
got an A.
yeah, and but he has no idea the ripple effect that he has caused, and that's the movie over. It's awesome.
Oh yeah,
Now
yeah.
there are sad things, of course, Keaton.
Oh, there definitely are. And I mean, because they didn't find out um, that the homeless person had talked a woman off the ledge. Like that had happened, and we knew about it, but
But
they
it doesn't
weren't.
matter. They don't have to know
But
about
yeah,
it. What
yeah.
matters, like I said, is the actual effect that happened. And
Oh yeah.
um, but the bummer thing, and I think the kind of thing, the shocking thing, is whenever that kid killed him at school,
Oh yeah.
and it was like kind of
And
like you weren't expecting it. Like what just happened? Like this whole movie was supposed to be about him changing the world, and now he's dying. Little kid is,
oh yeah.
but
And it's one of the biggest triumphs that he has right after he finally, because that was like the hardest thing he did,
mhm,
um was defend his friend, because his mom was the one. He did something, you know brave by trying to help his mom, but his mom did the huge thing by going to her mom. Like that was a huge thing. So Trevor hadn't quite accomplished what he wanted to yet, and so the end of the movie was him finally triumphing, and then literally dying because of it, and like, which is obviously extremely heartbreaking in itself, and also because his mother and uh, the Kevin Spacey's character are witnessing it. They're trying to get to him in time. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that whole scene is horrible. And then the music that they play at the end with the candles.
Oh,
Calling
another reminder that he affected more people that he had no idea he affected.
Oh yeah, because you see for miles, you see the long line of cars that are trying to get to their house to pay their respects. And it's so fitting that they are sitting on the couch watching him talking in the classroom, and he's just this dorky kid that's like, well, I tried, and and
He's just wearing like a little sleeveless shirt, like a little like he just like
I know,
a normal kid, just a normal kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was before his transformation. Whenever he did that, and then he did a couple other movies I think the last one, Secondhand Lions, and then he went through puberty, and we didn't see him for 10, 15 years. And then when we see him again, he's this big old hairy big guy.
I was gonna say, he's really big. I don't know what I saw him in recently, but I had to pause it and squint my eyes like, is that the kid from Sixth Sense?
Yeah, he has the eyes, the piercing, the pretty blue eyes.
Oh yeah, I know. He still has his little kid face. Like he still looks
baby features.
Yeah. I forgot that was him on Secondhand Lions. Oh my gosh, that is a wonderful movie.
A lot of people forget he was on Forrest Gump too. He was Forrest Gump's son.
Forrest Jr.
Yeah, Forrest Jr. Yeah. Absolutely, and we go back to Tom Hanks again.
Yeah. I know, and Lieutenant Dan was in Green Mile. Mm-hmm. He was the lawyer that defended him.
Absolutely was. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of these three movies that we got to talk about tonight. There's so much to all three of them, and it's one of those things. I could have easily done all three of these separately. I just feel like I want to start like just keeping all of the audience refreshed with a 3-pack, we call them. And I want to get some comments from you guys too, if you think that this is the way to do it, or go back to one, or whatever you think. But Keaton, I really appreciate you coming on and doing the 3-pack, the drama 3-pack with me. So.
It's always a pleasure. You know that.
And I don't know why I did this, by the way, because I have the microphone right here. But I was like, oh, like maybe it'll change the sound of my voice.
I hope it doesn't.
Oh, perfect, Key. Well, I will talk to you next time, and thanks again for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Can't wait till next time.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Take care, everyone.